My name is Kate, and this sequence is designed to address any low back issues, tightness, low back pain that can result from a lot of different things. Sometimes it can actually be a result of shoulder and neck tension, especially if you work on devices all day. That is a separate sequence, so take a look, check out that sequence too. This is going to be specifically designed to address low back and kind of strengthen core, because often the two are very connected. So you're going to start on your back, hugging the knees into the chest. Good. Soften the shoulders out of the ears. Get the breath moving freely through the body, deeply into the belly, evenly. Good, and just open the arms, drop the legs to the right into a twist. And try to press that left hip away from your left shoulder. Good. And on second side, legs over to the left. You might be looking over the right shoulder. Good. And then back to center. And I want you to hug your right knee in and float your left leg just off the floor. And then switch. Good. So you're sort of bicycling the legs, keeping that core engaged. For now, you can leave the head and shoulders on the ground or on the mat. But try to drop the abs down towards the floor, towards your spine. Try to keep the shoulders out of the ears. Keep that steady breath. Good. Now, once again, hug both knees in. You're going to lift your knee to your nose. Both knees to your nose. Good. And then extend the arms and legs. And you can keep the head lifted off the ground or lower it. And then again, knees to nose. Curl yourself into a little ball. And then expand. Good. Inhale as you lengthen. Exhale as you contract. Good. Last 10. Last 3. 2, 1, and release the head. Take the feet as wide as your mat or wider than hip distance. Let the knees knock in towards each other. And then I want you to windshield wiper the knees side to side. Good. And then bring it back to center. Again, knees knocking in, feet wider than the hips. And just breathe into the back of the sacrum. Make sure the shoulders are still out of the ears. Good. And then bring the feet back, hip distance apart. Take your hands right by your sides. You can even take the hands kind of under your hips a little bit. Again, shoulders out of the ears. Extend the legs up, lower down, knees in, legs up. Good. Good. Last 10. Good. Again, bend your knees. This time I want you to take your knees wider than your hips. And then point your feet to the sky. And you're going to see what you can grab a hold of. Some of you maybe can take your hands to the backs of the thighs, to your hamstrings. And again, relax the shoulders, relax the arms. You want to get as deep of a forward fold as you can. So you want to bring the tops of the thighs increasingly closer to the ground. So this would be one way, right? Another way, some of you maybe can interlace fingers behind the hamstrings. There's another way. Try not to curl your tailbone up to the sky. Try to keep the back of the hips in contact with the floor and your tailbone lengthening forward. Some of you could reach for the outer ankles, right, or outer shins. And then some of you maybe hands to the outer edges of the feet. But I want to caution you, right, we don't want to round the shoulders forward. Ideally, you want to keep the backs of the shoulders in contact with the floor. And then you could stay in stillness here, or you can rock it side to side. That part is up to you. And then breathe as you spend time here in Happy Baby or Modified Happy Baby. Right, you can take your peace fingers around your big toes if that's easier than outer edges of the feet. It's really up to you. Whatever way you can get the tops of the thighs close to the floor, close to your front ribs, because we want that deep hip flexion, a deep crease between your hip and your torso in order to get this length and space in the lower back. Great. All right, hands to the backs of the thighs. We're gonna rock forward to a seated position. Okay. Again, this is gonna be some core work here. I want you to try to keep the spine straight. What we're not looking for is rounding the back body. All right, so you want to stay as close to the front edges of the sitting bones as possible, as long of a spine as possible, and then float the feet. And from here, you can float the arms, you can extend the legs, up to you, but hold. 10, 9, 8, you got it. Soften shoulders. 4, 3, 2, 1. Cross the ankles. Come onto all fours. Good. So a couple rounds of cat-cow, right? Your wrists are right under your shoulders. Your knees are right under your hips. Your spine is long, which means you're lifting the abs. And you want to try to keep that lower belly lifted. This isn't about dumping into the low back. You want to try to keep this about the upper third of the spine as much as possible. So squeeze the tips of the shoulder blades together, pull the chest forward. And then dome the upper back and drop your chin towards your chest. Good. Good. And then come back to that neutral spine. I want you to step your right foot outside your right hand. And we're going to try to drop the hips and pull the chest forward and up. Good. And then drive your hips back and try to lengthen that front leg. Good. Rebend that front knee. And then switch legs. So your left foot comes outside your left hand. You're softening the hips. You're lengthening the spine. Good. And then driving the hips back, lengthening that front leg. Good. Rebend your front knee. Come back to all fours. You're going to cross your ankles and have a seat on your mat, right? So this is a key point. If you're already in trouble keeping the back straight, then I'm going to caution you to sit up on something. A stack of books, a cushion, a folded blanket, anything. But you want to try to start with the hips elevated if you need to, because you want to begin with a straight back. And then your feet come into a diamond shape. Soles of the feet are together, the knees drop out to the side. And then you're going to fold forward, bringing your chest towards your feet, any amount. And I usually like to start by trying to keep the back straighter. And oftentimes I feel it in the outer hips. Good. And then you can round the upper back and drop the chin to the chest. Good. And then inhale, come up right. You were sitting on something. Again, lift the hips, slide it out. Come onto all fours, uncross the ankles, tuck your toes, lift your hips to downward facing dog. And pedal through the feet a few times, lengthening out the backs of the legs. And then come to a place of stillness. So that might mean the knees are bent in service of keeping the back straighter. It might mean you can lengthen the legs also. Good, then inhale to plank. Float your right toes, pull your right knee to your nose, extend the leg back, lower the right foot, switch legs, left foot, knee to nose, left leg extends, lower the foot. Good, keep switching legs. Like a really slowed down mountain climb. Good. Last 5 each side. Good. Here's 4. Here's 3. Last 2. Good, last 1 each side. And then lift the hips, downward facing dog. And then soften your knees, walk your hands back to your feet. Let the arms dangle, fold deeply over the legs. Slowly roll all the way up. Good, so you're gonna take the feet wide with your feet parallel, maybe even toes slightly turned in. Reach the arms up. And then I want to take you to take your left toes, turn them to the back edge of the mat, spiral the right heel back slightly, open the arms, warrior 2. And then back to center, both feet parallel, and then other side, move the feet so that your front toes are pointing directly forward, your back heel is angled slightly back, you're bending that front knee. Good. So move the feet, externally rotating the hip on the front leg. Again, your spine stays long, but you're trying to keep your shoulders away from your ears. Good, one more time each side. Good. So you can take your hands to your hips. You can take your hands and interlace them behind the back. If you want to go for that variation, but it doesn't quite make it, you can use a towel between the hands. Squeeze the tips of the shoulder blades together. Drop your tailbone. Lift your chest. And then fold over your legs. Soften your knees. Keep the weight more in the balls of the feet than the heels. The temptation is to rock the hips way back, shift the weight into the heels. Try to avoid that. And then lift your shoulders out of your ears. Let your head hang. Bend the knees as much as you need to if your hamstrings are tight. Breathe. Good. Lift the lower belly, release the hands. Bend your knees if you need to, but try to get to a flat back, fingertips on the mat. And you're gonna bend alternating knees, shifting your hips side to side. Again, stay with the breath. There's really not a benefit to rushing this. So if you can slow down the breath and then mirror the breath with your movement, that's ideal. Good. Back to center. Fold over your legs once again. Good. Come again to that flat back. You're going to start to heel toe the feet, hip distance apart. Bend your knees, sit your hips low, reach your arms up like you're sitting in a straight back chair. Zip up through your lower belly, slide your tailbone to the ground. And then lengthen the legs, reach up, look up, take your hands to your heart center. We're gonna do that chair pose 2 more times, but with an added variation. So this time as you come into your chair, you're gonna bring your hands to your chest, shift the weight into the left foot, cross your right ankle over your left thigh, flex the foot. And then depending on how open the hip is, you might stay right here. You might start to fold forward. Again, try not to let the shoulders round forward. You would be trying to keep your back as straight as possible. Good. Lift up. Chair pose. Lengthen arms and legs. Look up. Maybe palms touch. Little back bend behind the heart. Hands to heart center. Last one. Good. Chair pose. Shift the weight. Hug that outer hip in. You want to keep the hips square directly in front of you. So there's a lot going on here, right? It's a core strengthener. You want to keep the chest open, the shoulders back, so it's an upper back strengthener. It's a hip opener. It's a balance challenge. And on top of it all, do you want to breathe? Good. Great. Back to chair. Inhale, arms and legs, reach up, look up, and then hands to heart center. Okay, so we're gonna do a squat, and there's lots of ways to do this. So if you have any knee or ankle issues, I'm gonna offer variations, and I encourage you to take care of yourself. So variation 1 is a malasana squat. Your feet are wider than hip distance, your toes are turned out. If you're on a mat, you might use that as your width guide. And you're gonna bend your knees, drop your hips, maybe wedge your elbows in the inner thighs, chest lifted, back straight. All right? So front view would be, here you are, coming down into your squat. You're lengthening that lower back. Okay, so for those of you that this is no problem, awesome. Stay here, breathe. For those of you where that is not gonna be sustainable for any amount of time, if you're losing your balance because the backs of the ankles maybe aren't that flexible and your heels don't touch the ground, you can roll up a mat or a towel, place it under the heels, and that's gonna give you that stability, right? Okay, good. For those of you where it's about knee flexion, right, I'm gonna encourage you to keep the hips a little bit higher, right? Lift your pelvic floor, don't go so low, okay? You can always take a block or something if you have it under the hips, but then you're not getting as much benefit in the low back. For those of you that none of that is working, if you have a wall nearby, another way to do a squat is to come onto your back. And just like the chair pose that we were in, I want you to think about being in a straight back chair that's been tipped over. So your feet would be on the wall with the back of a chair, whatever you have, something that's not going to move, with your back on the ground. Okay, and then start to open the knees, turn out the feet, follow the line of the knees. You don't want to turn the feet wider than the knees. You should have the center of your knee tracking over the second toe on your foot. But same idea. Feet start to heel toe down towards the floor. The knees drop open, right? And you're getting the same thing, the same length through the lower back. And in this variation, you can just relax the arms or interlace your fingers under the back of the head. So there's lots of ways to squat depending on who you are. Good. This may be 30 more seconds. Breathe. Good. And release. Have a seat. You're on your back. Go ahead and roll off to one side. Press yourself up. So we're going to take a seated spinal twist. Again, if the hamstrings or the hips are tight, and you can't sit up straight on the floor, sit on something, prop up the hips. Take your right foot outside your left leg. You're gonna twist to the right. And you can hook the elbow outside the thigh, but just watch the shoulder rounding forward. You want to keep the front of the chest open. Good, and release. Switch sides. Unwind the twist, both legs straight out in front of you. Reach the arms up, fold forward over your legs. Breathe into the back body. Inhale, come up right. You're going to come onto your back. Once again, bend the knees, place the feet flat on the floor, this time hip distance apart, parallel to each other. Lift the hips. Tuck the shoulders underneath you, so you're pressing directly into the backs of the shoulders and the triceps. Lift the hips. Lengthen your tailbone towards the backs of your knees. Lengthen the front body, abs, hip flexors, and release. Lower the hips, extend the legs, slide the shoulders down, spin the palms up, take a few deep breaths. Good. Either roll to one side or rock forward. Come back to a comfortable seat. Sit on something if you need to. Good. Drop one ear towards one shoulder. And back to center, look to one side, and other side, back to center, roll the shoulders, good, reach the arms up, sit up tall, and hands to heart center, soften or close the eyes, focus your attention on the breath. Few deep breaths. When you're ready, blink open the eyes, open the hands. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you feel good. I have a wide variety of sequences. Some are sort of more vinyasa flow, some are targeted sequences. Just sort of stretching and strengthening to deal with certain specific areas of the body. Feel free to comment, let me know any requests, concerns, and I hope to see you soon.